So here we are again, another of our series of fortnightly webinars where I interview somebody from a real expert in one of the areas that will be of interest to your business. This week, Shelley Rostlund of Harbour 32. Hi, Shelley.
Hello.
And so Harbour 32 is a digital marketing agency. And so obviously today's topic is digital marketing. Shelley, actually the obvious question to start with, but what is digital marketing?
Well, it's a good question to start with, because I have to say I get a bit confused now and again looking at different agencies and how they describe themselves. I think the biggest way to explain it to people is that it is this one big term that includes multiple disciplines and techniques. So, and they're mainly steered by your ultimate objectives of your business. So it may include things like social media, email marketing, search engine marketing, your website user experience, content marketing, outreach activities, and then also all the paid activities like pay-per-click and the social paid advertising. So it's quite a big thing, and usually you find the people that you try and work with around the digital marketing space might specialize in bits and parts of that, but then call themselves the whole realm, which confuses a public audience.
Yeah. Okay. So for a business that's thinking about doing some digital marketing,
yeah,
where do they want to start? What's the starting place?
I think there's a few obstacles that kind of stump people, so they don't really know how to get started. And I think generally they're trying to overcomplicate things. So when I'm talking to businesses, it's more about, let's try and find out what's good for you and what's good for your audience and what's good for where you're trying to go with your business in the next couple of years as well. So I think you just need to take, and I'm sure this is the kind of work you do so much with your clients, is, I know it's hard, but you've got to just take a step back, take a breath and go, actually, what am I trying to achieve? And therefore get that plan in place, because sometimes people confuse tactics with strategy.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have a plan, you don't really know where you're going and why you're going in that direction. So for me, it always starts with that plan. And in digital marketing, it's not a scary plan. It's actually an exciting, almost like a business growth plan alongside your business plan.
Yeah.
And I think you feel the same way, don't you?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the people we work with, how often when we start the conversation with them, they don't, well, first thing is actually, where do you want to take the business? What do you want your business to become? What do you see your business looking like in 2 years, 5 years time? Secondly, how are you going to get there? And then of course, all the things we have to work with. So who are the people, who are your clients? What's your typical client look like? How do they behave? Can you describe one of your typical clients? And of course, a lot of that ties into the work that you're doing around the marketing.
Yeah, and the really cool and human, exciting part of digital marketing, in that you don't get stuck on jargon, as you take that work like you're explaining around your business plan, and you take that bit of, okay, who you're trying to market, because in your business plan you might be a little more generalistic, right? So you go, I'm trying to reach women and men between the ages of 40 and 60. Whereas when you get to digital marketing, you get to draw that down even further, and then you get really, really clear, because actually with digital marketing, it's so personalized, and we're in the world of personalization now, so where you actually get to know that audience, because don't forget the age between, if I use my example, 40 to 60, you're probably talking about 3 or 4 different avatars or target audiences within that, because their device usage is very different. Yeah. How they like to digest content is very different. So when I say sometimes that people also can't start, it's because maybe they haven't really narrowed down, what does that person actually look like? Is the mobile their main device? Is a tablet their main device, or do they just not engage at all? So where else do you? Because digital marketing is not always the silver bullet.
Yeah, and also I'm guessing that the different platforms must play a role in this as well. So different generations, because I know my generation, Facebook is the thing. I'm pretty sure with the kids, that's not the platform they're using. How much does that affect the way you do digital marketing?
Yeah. No, that definitely affects, because that's when you part of your strategic work then is to then go, okay, I know all of this now about my target audience. So now where should I actually be? Not like, where do I like to hang out?
Yeah.
It's where is my customer audience sitting? And the thing with that is you've got to keep checking in and make sure it's true. So because social media and digital marketing are based on human behavior, and we've all seen with COVID and the pandemic period how that behavior's shifted 360, you've got to keep checking. That's why your digital marketing strategy is actually like a living document, because you've got to keep going back. So the things that you know to be true for Facebook or Twitter or Instagram might be completely different in a year's time.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, this is why test and measure becomes so important as well, isn't it? So we encourage our clients to, you need to know actually how much activity you have. You need to know how much you're spending on that activity. More importantly, you need to understand what results it's getting and actually can you improve on it. So inevitably, you're going to find that some activity gets more response than other activity, and it's then analysing what that activity was and making sure you do more of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? Because metrics is one of my big bugbears with digital marketing, to be honest, because Facebook's now rolling out F5, right? So that's their fifth version of Facebook since they started. The problem with the iterations of the development of the platform is the changing of how many touch points and metrics there are. So it's literally a thumb scroll time, how long it took you to tap on something, or if you tapped on something. And if you as a business get really hyped up on those metrics and then bam, those metrics are gone in 6 months, what was the point of measuring it? So for me, there's high level kind of, okay, what will never really change around how you're measuring your activity. And then there's a bit of experimentation. So sometimes for a short period of time, so, you know, when stories came out, for example, on Instagram, that almost created a whole different news feed, right? So people that kind of cottoned onto that fairly quickly, they ended up getting quite a bit of uptake. They got quite a bit of traction, and then thought, right, stories are it. They're the way to go. You just like, you should only do this, you know, and then kind of neglected other activities.
Yeah.
So I think instead of that magpie kind of situation, there is a bit of a level you've got to allow for of experimentation. And the guys that are on the coal face of dealing with your social media are the guys that are best placed day to day to go, gosh, you know, when we did that thing, it worked really well. But it's not necessarily the mechanism, Rupert.
Yeah. It's
going to be about the content as well.
Yeah. Okay. So where would somebody start who is new to digital marketing? How do they start? What's the starting place?
Well, generally you are doing something already, right? So you're already in any one of those rounds. You are sending out emails at the moment. You are doing social media. You are doing those things. I think what's often happening is those things are happening in a disparate fashion way. Sorry. So your marketing in-house, or whether that's you doing your marketing, you're probably feeling like completely overwhelmed and exhausted because you got all these things to do. So I would again say take a step back and go, okay, what are we trying to achieve? What are the things we should be doing? Should we be doing a newsletter? And should we be doing it every week?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a big fan of, you know, rather focusing on the things that you can do well, as opposed to trying to split yourself into too many things. So I'd start with a plan again, go back to what is it that you should be doing for your business, and just take a step, take a breath.
So this sounds like, I suppose it's your marketing plan and your marketing strategy as well, isn't it? So where do you want to be seen and how do you want to be seen? And then, of course, what's your plan to make that happen?
Yeah, and try not to separate marketing and digital marketing. It's all marketing, right? So hopefully this will change over time and people will think of all of things in one go. So when you are looking at your target audiences, and say you are trying to shoot for the 50 to 60, where actually they're not massively on social, but they're very good with email or messaging apps or whatever that ends up being, or even, you know, still doing a brochure or a book works for them. You've got to allow for that in what your plan is, but all of these things can work together. So it's trying to make sure they work together. And I think if you're doing your own marketing, it's incredibly helpful to have that strategy. I know I bang on about it, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been doing this for more than 10 years with so many business owners. And still today I get stuck with the clients that like, oh, I don't really want branding guidelines. I don't really want all of those strategic assets are so important.
Yeah.
Because it will speed up your decision making. You won't have to keep answering all those annoying questions when your marketing person or your VA goes, oh, you know that leaflet, like what's your colors again, and what's your fonts again, and what's your objective for this campaign again, and who are you trying to reach again? Like all of that stuff is sorted. So when you get to brief an agency or a consultant, you're sorted, you're done, your key messages are done. You don't have to keep rethinking stuff. So I think still taking that pause and having a think about how you're coming across within your digital marketing strategy really helps.
Yeah, and the investment in doing that in the first place is actually, it's sharpen the saw, isn't it? That was Abraham Lincoln, but sharpen the saw before you cut down the tree. I can't remember the exact quote.
Exactly, and make sure you're in the right forest, as Stephen Covey would say.
Yes, that as well. Yeah, so it is. It's about having everything in place so that you know what you're going to do, and actually, more importantly, of course, the people that you're working with know what you're trying to achieve and how they're going to do it, and putting those rules in place.
Because it builds momentum, right? But this is the thing about, you know, any kind of business activities, building momentum and into the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about energy and physics, you know, you can't, you know, you keep doing things for the sake of doing them. So your energy is going like that. But as soon as you've got that kind of like, I get it, I know what I'm saying, how am I saying it, and more of those customers that you are trying to reach will be able to clearly understand you, and you'll clearly come out of the noise and they go, oh, that's the person I want to deal with. They understand me.
Yeah, and actually, because it raises another interesting question about actually how much you should be posting on each of the platforms as well.
Well, again, that's tactics, isn't it? It's mixing up tactics versus strategy. So first you've got to figure out, should you be on Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then what you do have to understand is how the platforms work. So they all work differently. They're not the same way. So, you know, do you remember back in the day with Facebook, it used to be, yeah, you need to at least post at least 2 or 3 times a day, you know? And it's not like that anymore. And Instagram also, again, is very different to Facebook. They're not the same. You know, the algorithms work completely differently. The audience is very picky on Instagram. And there's none of this kind of favoritism where if so-and-so posted it, and it's happening a lot on LinkedIn and Facebook at the moment, where if someone posts something and it's really popular, then somehow it'll get into your feed because you're related to all these other people. But Instagram's not like that. Instagram is like, you've got to bring your herd or pull your tribe together, build that audience, and then consistently feed that audience the content they want. Yeah. And that might be just one really brilliant Instagram post a week. It might be 2. It all depends on your industry, and it depends on your audience and what you do. And then also within that platform, much like the others, you've got kind of mini platforms within platforms. So you've got your story feed, you've got your grid, and then you've also got IGTV and now Reels. So, yeah, do you do all of them? Do you do some of them? Which parts do you do? You know, but that comes with testing as well. But if you decide that that's your main platform, then you go deep and you would experiment.
But you better explain RGTV and Reels as well.
IGTV.
I know what that is.
So IG is Instagram TV. So obviously everything's video, right? So you can create an IG channel within your Instagram account. But it's all portrait video basically. Reels is fairly, depending on when this goes out now in 2020, doesn't it? So it's just rolled out in the last month or so, and it's kind of Facebook's, well, you know, Facebook owning Instagram's trying to take the whole the TikTok situation of the funny dancey videos and things like that. So yeah, again, do you jump onto a magpie and a shiny object, or do you just continue to do the things that are working well? Yes, you need to adjust when things change. Just keep your eyes eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Video content has a far higher open rate than traditional static pictures as well, doesn't it? In my head, it's, if you've got pictures, it'll be far more popular than if you don't have any graphics at all. If you've got video, that'll be more popular than just pictures. Well,
again, depends on the platform, but like with Facebook, it's live video, then video, What is funny and interesting sometimes now is actually text only was kind of above images and links. So, and again, those are tactics, and they change with algorithms and they change with time. So at the moment, yes, video, and I think video going forward anyway, most video content is digested by video. So for me, from again, content marketing's within your digital marketing strategy, video has to be in there somewhere. If you don't like the camera, there are ways around that, but it's the video, but that is important to catch people's eye. But I think a good mix though is also important.
Yeah, and if you don't like the camera, just get used to it. That's what everybody else sees.
It comes with practice, doesn't it? So I think you got to just start, and you just have a go. And what is nice is you watch your iterations over time, and you see how I don't know if you follow any of Daniel Priestley's stuff, but he's always said that don't be afraid to put things out there, because what's nice is you get to see how your approach has evolved over time.
Yeah.
And also remember, like, you've been smart all the time. So you always used to say smart things, and you still say smart things. You can actually see, look, you've made sense over time, as opposed to being too critical about yourself and deleting it.
Yeah. You have an image of how you want the world to see you, which isn't the way the reality is, I think, is the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shelley, obviously you've been doing this a long time, but the one thing that is going through my head is, how do you keep up to date with all the changes in technology and what's, let's face it, a very fast moving industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's exhausting. But I think what's also happened over time is, like, even with Facebook, you can't be a complete Facebook expert anymore. Because within Facebook, there are at least 12 products within Facebook, and each of those are a specialism. Yeah. So I caught on to that pretty quickly, going, there's a point where my information cannot be retained in this head anymore. Yeah. So I make sure that I have a network of specialists. So, because otherwise I could spend my days rabbit holing down. I know enough to be able to help people kind of make their minds up of where they need to go, but actually down to the proper earthworm side, you need to have your technical specialists for that as well. You've got to keep up on the changes. So I mean, we go to big international conferences, we spend a lot of money on subscribing into big peer groups that are completely international, because what happens is things roll out in other countries and they haven't come to you yet, so you get to know what's coming. So I'd say, peer groups, learning. It doesn't help going to study digital marketing, because it changes. So I did go and do a formal diploma at the IDM. If anything, just to temperature check whether I was like, this is the way I think it is. Is it really? And that was really nice and helpful and also be in a room with tutors and with people from other industries as well. So it was a good temperature check. But I think day-to-day stuff, the podcasts, the blogs, the videos, the training, the courses, the peer groups, the conferences. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, very similar to the position we're in. I cannot know everything about everything that goes on in. No. Exactly why we're doing these interviews with people like yourself, who can bring that level of expertise into the conversation.
It's impossible. You can't. You just
you just can't do it all. You can't remember it all. So you have to know what needs to be done, but not necessarily the detail of how it's going to be done. Also, like what you said about the peer groups as well. Actually, that's quite relevant as well, because talking to other people, it's amazing how other businesses will have the same problem as your business, even if they don't appear to be in the same industry. And actually just bouncing ideas off other business owners is really powerful as well.
And everyone else has got their own, good thing about them, of that what they're really good at. I mean, I'm big on processes and systemizing and everything. So it's just a lot of people kind of pick my brain for that within our digital marketing community, but then I can do the same and going, oh, okay, explain this thing about this thing, because it's doing my head in. I've done research it, and then they'll be able to explain it in 5 minutes and go, fantastic, okay, great. Thank you. You've made that clear for me. But I think you've also got to decide I think what's frustrating for me is I see a lot of gurus. I see a lot
Mm.
of like, I can do everything for you type of thing. And it's not to say they couldn't, but I think there's so many nuances to stuff, and the world, like you say, keeps changing and shifting, that what you want to be clear on whenever you're working with whoever your expert is just check if they are an expert. Because ultimately, if they've only set up shop in the last year and used to make machinery on a factory floor the year before, it kind of says to me, no, they're not.
Yeah.
And then where are you spending your money and getting your advice? Because it's momentum. So if you waste the next 12 months scattering your money and your activity, is that worth your time, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that's interesting, of course, is that COVID-19, which is back in the news again at the moment, and increasingly we're being restricted on what we're allowed to do.
I miss the days of Brexit.
Yes, yeah, that was so much easier, wasn't it? It was almost predictable. So how has marketing changed as we've been in lockdown since March, and of course, how's it changing again as we go back in for the foreseeable future, I guess?
Yeah, I think because we had a little chat about this, didn't it? Because I shared an example of going to a restaurant now during this period, and I mean we haven't gone out at all. We went to two, and what became really clear to me is the actual touch points of customer confidence has changed. So the things that used to be the subtle indicators that were sometimes just subconscious and sometimes conscious, where you felt okay and you had trust in order to spend with that business or to talk to them, that's changed. So I think now during COVID, you can use your digital marketing to be really flexible and adaptable. But also you need to be really empathetic, and you really need to understand what makes your customers feel secure and confident to spend with you. So people who were loyal before pandemic are not necessarily going to be loyal afterwards, because you could have scared them off by just something really simple that you hadn't thought through. So like a practical example, I'll share the story I shared with you about the two different restaurants, right? Because for me, it was because Christian, my husband, and I had a chat about it after, and I thought, wow, that outwardly not much different, but inwardly, one, I was like, I can do this. I can do this. Next time I was like, never want to go out again, and this is never going to happen. It was literally the difference of a pub thinking through, okay, somebody inviting you in from the beginning and going, have you been here since lockdown?
Yeah.
Immediately you understand the customer has no idea how to approach you or come into your environment or know what they can and can't do. So something as simple as that, which obviously we didn't have before, unless you went to Nando's, where something works different, isn't it? And they always ask you, have you been to Nando's before? So a similar thing like that, isn't it? But it was even like the cleaning of the tables, or the staff walking around with their masks, or that, you know, we had staff that kept doing this with their masks. And I was like, it's the little subtle touch points. I think now during a pandemic, yes, people will get more confident over time, but you need to be really sympathetic to now and alter, you know, what are you doing and how are you keeping your customers informed as well?
Yeah. I suppose education's the key thing, isn't it? So how are you protecting your customers? How do they engage with you now? I mean, obviously there's going to be changes in the way, depending on whether you're an office or you've got a shop.
Online business.
You're only allowed 2 people in the shop or something like that at a time. Social distancing.
Signage. Yeah.
So it is that it's actually not only that you're open and you're doing business, but how they should do business with you at the moment.
How can I safely do business with you?
Yeah.
Because if you haven't thought through those bits of, you know, the touching at the moment, this is really specific to a pandemic environment, right? But, you know, you haven't thought through how your surfaces are or things like that. But even as an online business, like, you know, how like the delivery guys now, I've just noticed on all of the apps now, it's like, right, this is what we're going to do to deliver. If you're sheltering or if you're shielding, let us know, we'll do this for you. It's all little things like that, you know. And I have seen some really early on in lockdown, we had an Amazon guy come to deliver something to across the road, and I watched him out the window. He got so mad with the lady because she looked at him from upstairs and said, okay, you can put it on my doorstep. He said, you come down here and you take this from me. I'm like, we're in lockdown.
Yeah.
We don't know where you've been. He had no mask, had no gloves. It was
Yeah.
really early on in the pandemic. And I actually haven't seen him again. So I don't know if he got loads of complaints. But it's simple things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, because I've noticed actually
Yeah.
Amazon's a great example, because Amazon seems to turn up here on a very regular basis. But I have noticed that they just leave the parcel on the doorstep now, don't they? Take a photo of it with you standing next to it to prove you.
Yeah. Which is, you know, which is absolutely fine, you know, but it was really hard early on. So I think if whatever business you're in, taking that economic environment into place, I think the pandemic's been a really good lesson and a wake-up call for some businesses that have been just raking in the customers because there's been a lethargy around their decision making. Whereas now, even subscription-made services now, if you're in a subscription-based business, I'm like, you must be killing it, especially if you're in craft gins. I think alcohol companies have made loads. If you can think about what are the things that people continue to spend money on during this period, like that is easily gotten to them, because this is the most complicated environment you could ever get, where you cannot bring a human together, you cannot touch, you can't do anything. I think it's a brilliant, like, kind of incubation period for innovation, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, to get those ideas out there. I bet people think about how they're running their business. And actually, because also you look at a lot of businesses, they will have modified their process over a period of time as things have changed, but they've never really done a wholesale review of the processes that are operating inside the business and adjusting it to the modern technology as well. Because if your business has evolved from being a shop or warehouse business into being an online business, the technology's come in. You've obviously actually just simple things like taking things off the shelf and scanning barcodes and the equipment to do that, using tablets instead of paper. All those things come into play as well. So your process can change quite dramatically
and potentially narrowing down your product line so that actually you only sell the stuff that is actually being sold. Do you know what I mean? So you're almost increasing your profits by reducing your product offering, because you were selling all the superfluous stuff that actually just filled shelves before.
Yeah. Oh, it's a whole new topic now, aren't we? About
management. Oh man, I could go forever.
Whole conversation in itself. Yeah, absolutely. So, and also the marketing messaging. So we talked about the fact that it needs to be much more informative about what's happening in your business. But also, a lot of businesses before were very much, if you like, sales-orientated marketing on digital media. So it was very much about actually these special offers coming to the shop now. Has the messaging changed that should be going on? Or should the business be changing their messaging now?
I mean, I was never really a fan of those messages, particularly on social media, because I think there are smarter ways to do that on social media and on digital marketing. The buy me kind of stuff it really hurts my heart when I see that kind of stuff, because it's quite easy to turn that into a storytelling sale. You know, it doesn't have to be a buy me. There is a place for coupons. There is a place for discounts, because, you know, stuff that's really quick wins anyway, and people like it, they're hot to touch regardless, then yes, still do that. But I think you still got to be sensitive, don't you? I mean, it depends on your product as well. So don't try and potentially sell something then add a discount if it's a really contentious, you know, service or product to be selling right now.
Yeah.
You know, so I think from an economic environment, you know, in any way, any smart business owner would go, well, actually, that's pretty inhumane. Why am I doing that?
Yeah.
But I just think anyway on digital marketing, everything should just have a little more thought in terms of your journey of your customer. So if you're thinking about smarter things like email marketing, where you could have those warming sequences and, you know, they clicked on this, so they then get this email and things like that. Just try and make sure you think through those journeys still, because there's no reason why you can't go for the sale. But you got to remember the whole like courting and courtship situation, right? So you meet someone for the first time, you don't go like, you're not American, don't go in for the kill. Just like, you know, you need to get to know each other. So you go from cold to warm to hot. So don't go straight into hot content. We call it like AEC, so awareness, engagement, conversion type content. Yeah. So don't try and jump straight to conversion when I don't know you know, you haven't actually said anything that's, you know, resonated with me. You'll probably get a better take up if you just extend that campaign for a little bit longer,
Yeah.
warm them up. And there's such smart ways to do that now with social media ad campaigns and things like that. But go for the story, and then when you get to conversion, yes, go for here's your coupon.
Yeah, okay, brilliant advice, brilliant. Shelley, it's been lovely talking to you today. If anyone wants to contact you at Harbour 32, what do they need to do?
Yes, so they can go to the website. So it's Harbour and the English spelling. So it's OU at the end, 32.co.uk. And I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter. So I think hopefully my name is on here, Shelley Rostlund. I'm the only one in the world because I have a Swedish husband.
Wow. That's a differentiator.
Yeah, there we go. You got to go for something, hey? South African, Swede, met in Vienna, so we've got a whole circus going on there. It's, so I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, I'm on all the usual places as well.
Okay, and we'll put your details up on the post as well, so people
sure.
can click on and get the details as well. Shelley, it's been great talking to you today. Really interesting topic, and I know there's a lot more that we haven't touched on. There always will be with this and the intricacies of how marketing and digital marketing need to work. But yeah, thanks for your time today. Is there any things you'd like to leave us with?
No, just don't overcomplicate things, guys. Keep it simple. That whole KISS strategy, that's what it is, but have a strategy. That's my main message. Have a plan.
Right. Shelley, thank you very much.
No problem.